Hello, good afternoon, and welcome back to the channel. I know it's been a while since my last video. I have had a lot going on, been getting the kids situated to go back to school, but I am here now. Okay, so today I wanted to read from the Gene Keys, Embracing Your Higher Purpose by Richard Rudd. And the chapter that I want to read today, I think is Gene Key 6, if I'm not mistaken, since today is the 6th. I felt like I should have started it on the 1st, but I guess I'll just start with the 6th Gene Key, since today is the 6th. So let me see if I can get that pulled up on here real quick. Okay. So I felt like this was a pretty interesting chapter, considering all that's going on today with the battle of the sexes. And I believe I mentioned this in one of my last videos. There was a show on MTV a long time ago when I was a kid. I don't know if they still have it, but I'm pretty sure they have something similar, where there was this just competitive match between the masculine and feminine. And then if you look at how things are playing out today, it kind of looks like, this was kind of orchestrated to get people to behave in this manner. But what a lot of people don't know is that this is actually like an ancient conflict. I guess I could use that word. That word makes a lot of sense for this topic. So I'll go ahead and get into it because I don't want to spend too much time on here. So bear with me. If I read too fast, feel free to slow me down or speed me up or whatever. So here we go. The 6th Gene Key. The city is peace. The gift is diplomacy. The shadow is conflict. The path to peace. Programming partner 36 Gene Key. Physiology mesenteric plexus. Lumbar ganglia. Amino acid glycine. Codon ring, the ring of alchemy. Numbers 6, 40, 47, and 64. The 6th shadow, conflict. The battle of the sexes. Okay, here we go. The 6th shadow of conflict is the single most influential gene key in regards to the issue of human communication. At its highest potential, the 6th Gene Key is the archetype of peace on earth, whilst at its lowest potential, it is the root cause of all human conflict. This conflict stems from the human emotional system and our inability to handle the voltage of extreme emotional states. Conflict breaks out whenever 2 or more people agree to identify with their emotional state. As long as you surrender your will to the emotional system, then you will be trapped by its volatile nature. Within the human body, the 6th shadow relates to the pH level of your blood. Its job is to maintain an optimum balance of acidity and alkalinity so that your cells can thrive. As a metaphor on a wider scale, we can see that the 6th shadow is about the loss of this balance in the world at large. In particular, it is about the imbalance between the male and female, and over time has given rise to the notion of the battle of the sexes. This battle or conflict is not just about men and women. It is about the balance of all polarities, religion and science, east and west, rich and poor. The world itself has its own kind of pH level, and wherever it is in balance, conflict ensues. In the same way that the overbalance of acidic body tissue becomes an environment for viruses and cancer to thrive, so do social imbalances result in upheaval, corruption, and at their worst, war. The 6th shadow can be interpreted individually through relationships or collectively through communities. At an individual level, this shadow manifests through your emotional state. If you have ever been emotionally repressed through shame or guilt or abuse, the entire culture within your being has been disturbed. Likewise, if you are utterly ruled by your emotions, then there can be no sense of harmony inside you. It is well known how much your emotional states influence your biological health. If you are stressed emotionally, your body will suffer. Emotional problems are the greatest cause of illness on our planet. And the 36th shadow of turbulence, the programming partner to this sixth shadow, reinforces this fact. The 36th shadow conditions you to be nervous when you feel uncertain and insecure about anything in life. It is the nervousness that forms the background frequency of our whole planet. The biofeedback loop between these two shadows is rooted in nervousness and defensiveness. The 36th shadow makes you nervous, feeding the 6th shadow, which responds through making you behave defensively. Likewise, your own defensiveness makes other people behave in a nervous manner around you. Human beings are unconsciously addicted to conflict. We long for peace individually and globally, but our collective low frequency ensures that we keep reinforcing the patterns of conflict. Nowhere is this seen more clearly than in our relationships. The conflict between male and female is part of the oldest wound there is, and it is hot-wired into our genetics. You are genetically subprogrammed to defend yourself from the opposite sex, and until your frequency rises above the emotional gravitational pull of the opposite sex, you can never really know peace. This is the deep irony of the sixth shadow. To bring an end to conflict, you have to give up your attraction to the opposite sex. Sex and war are deeply interrelated. This is a profound and perhaps disturbing truth for many people, and especially so because there is nothing we can do about it. Human sexuality can only be transcended through physiological mutation, which is dependent on the extent of your connection to the higher planes of reality. Conflict breaks out whenever two or more people agree to identify with their emotional state. When the sixth shadow is viewed at a social level, it dictates the relationship between different racial groups. Here, the genetic defense reflex becomes truly dangerous, since we are subprogrammed to distrust other gene pools and cultures. It is this sixth shadow that first gave birth to the idea of national borders and boundaries, and it is this sixth shadow that is responsible for war. War has been a byproduct of our genetic makeup for millennia. However, the sixth shadow is not as frightening as it sounds when viewed in evolutionary terms. It is an ancient part of our genetics, and it has been a necessary part of our evolution. It ensures that racial diversity existed in the first place, allowing different gene pools to expand and thrive without too much inbreeding. Only relatively recently have all the gene pools begun to merge with each other, which suggests that the human race has arrived at a very important genetic axis point. The sixth shadow is about maintaining boundaries and borders. It is about who is included and who is excluded, and its entire basis is defense. The sixth shadow causes you to believe that you have to defend yourself from danger. You can see this at both an individual level and a national level. Your emotional defense strategies are primarily laid down during the second 7-year cycle, from the age of 7 until 14. As you navigate puberty, an enormous amount of life energy is tied up in protecting ourselves from the volatile emotional situations we felt as children. Unless we enter some deep processes of deconditioning, we will continue to carry these defenses through our adult lives. In the same way, on a national level, we invest the majority of our energy in defense. The aggregate world defense budget is equivalent to well over $1,000 billion. One can only imagine how different the world might be were even 1/10 of this sum used in a creative way. The sixth shadow is the reason we cannot create world peace until such time as human beings move through an emotional revolution at an individual level and find peace in our relationships. This shadow cannot be transcended. However, as we shall see, it is also written into our human story and revolution. However, as we shall see, it is also written into our human story that revolutions do occur. And in fact, one of the biggest ones is beginning right now. Repressive nature, over attentive. The repressive nature of the sixth shadow is concerned with maintaining peace between people regardless of the cost. This pattern is based entirely upon fear and means that these people will totally compromise themselves in order to maintain control of their emotional environment. This is the defense pattern of over-attentiveness, and these are the people pleasers. The repressive nature will sweep conflict under the carpet by adopting any behavior that will keep it at bay. The problem here is that unless conflict is dealt with transparently, it tends to eventually explode. The over-attentive nature is at the core deeply. The over-attentive nature is at its core deeply false, which means, wait a minute, let me make sure I'm reading. The over-attentive nature is at its core deeply false, which means that it will invoke unconscious distrust in others. Over-attentive natures also tend to draw tactless natures to them, resulting in some spectacularly dysfunctional relationships and family dynamics. When these people finally develop the courage to face conflict, they realize it is never as bad as they feared. Reactive nature, tactless. The other side of the sixth shadow is unable to contain its emotions at all. Lack of emotional tact and timing betrays a low-frequency nature that inevitably results in a backlash. These people are always finding themselves in difficult emotional situations, which they make worse by giving vent to their anger as well as projecting it onto others. They are unable to take responsibility for their own volatile feelings. Their most common defense is to lash out and then storm away. The dilemma of the tactless nature is that it is deaf to its own lack of tact. These people assume that the problem is always in the other person, which unfortunately earns them no friends and makes it very difficult for others to get close to them. The only kind of person who will remain with such a person is the over-attentive nature described above. The secret to breaking this pattern is for reactive natures to take full responsibility for their emotions instead of remaining stuck in a teenager mentality. The sixth gift, diplomacy. Dropping your defenses. At a heightened frequency, the sixth gift pulls rapidly away from the world of conflict and argumentation. This is the gift of diplomacy, the ability to adjust your own behavior to create harmonious exchange with others. This gift is a byproduct of opening your heart to another person. As you become clearer about your own emotional conditioning, you begin to feel more peaceful. Because this gift is so deeply connected with the pH balance in your physical body, it also has the effect of stabilizing the emotional aura in your environment. In other words, when one is able to see and own their unconscious projections, they actually rupture the collective shadow patterns wherever they go. If one person is not playing the reaction blame game, the other is forced to come to terms with his or her own demons. You can see how the balance of pH in the body can be further understood through this gift. For relationships to be healthy, there must be a balance of yin and yang, of receiving and giving, listening and expressing. Conflict ensues when this balance is lost. The sixth gift has the effect of instantly applying the required amount of give and take in order to maintain peacefulness. And as an example, if one person in a relationship becomes aggressive, and the diplomatic countermeasure is to absorb the aggression and then pass the energy back without adding anything to it. This may be done in any number of ways, but tactful honesty is one of the most common. Honesty carries an extraordinary power and is one of the keys to diplomacy. The other key is timing. You have to be honest in the right way and at the right moment. People displaying the sixth gift are always attuned to the right timing of how to act and what to say through the strong resonance field of their aura. These people can physically feel into another person's aura. They can do this because it is a specific genetic gift, and also because they are emotionally mature. Emotional maturity means that your awareness operates even during the most profound emotional states. As you become more and more aware of your own emotional patterns, the frequency passing through your emotional system is released and quickened. This makes you much more sensitive and at an energetic level, like an early warning system for conflict. When you are operating out of this sixth gift, you can sense sense conflict in others before it even arises. This enables you to temper your own actions and or words to disperse the conflict. Excuse me. Emotional maturity means that your awareness operates even during the most profound